The rain hammered against the cracked pavement as 12-year-old Marcus stood at the edge of the highway, his threadbare jacket doing little to shield him from the storm. Behind him sat the burned shell of what used to be his home, the acrid smell of smoke still clinging to his clothes. Social services had been called, but he'd slipped away before they arrived. There was something he needed to know first, something his dying mother had whispered with her last breath. "Find the iron skulls. They know about your father." Now, as motorcycle engines roared in the distance, Marcus's heart pounded with equal parts terror and desperate hope. The boy had spent 3 days tracking rumors and following leads through the roughest neighborhoods in Nevada. The Iron Skulls weren't just any motorcycle club. They were legendary, feared, the kind of men mothers warned their children about. Yet here he was, standing outside Rusty's bar on the outskirts of Reno, watching a dozen motorcycles lined up like chrome soldiers in the fading light. Marcus's hands trembled as he pushed open the heavy door. The conversation inside died instantly. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward him, most of them hard and unwelcoming. These weren't the kind of men who appreciated interruptions, especially from scrawny kids who looked like they'd been sleeping in ditches. "Bars closed to minors," growled a massive man with a gray beard that reached his chest. His leather vest was covered in patches, and a scar ran from his temple to his jaw. "I'm looking for someone," Marcus said, his voice cracking but holding steady. "I need to know about my father." A younger biker with tattooed arms laughed. "Kid, this ain't a family reunion service." "Get lost before—" "Let him speak." The voice came from the back corner, quiet but commanding. An older man stood slowly, his movements deliberate. He had to be in his 60s, with silver hair pulled back in a ponytail and eyes that had seen too much. The patch on his vest read, "Hawk President." Marcus swallowed hard. "My mother just died. Before she told me to find the Iron Skulls. She said you'd know who my father is. His name was Danny Reeves." The silence that followed was deafening. Several bikers exchanged glances. Hawk's weathered face went pale, and he gripped the edge of the table. "Danny Reeves," Hawk repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. "Jesus Christ. How old are you, boy?" 12, almost 13. Hawk closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, they glistened with something Marcus hadn't expected to see in a place like this. Tears. "Sit down, son. Somebody get this kid some food." Over the next hour, as Marcus devoured a burger and fries, Hawk told him a story that rewrote everything he thought he knew about his life. 13 years ago, Danny Reeves had been riding with the Iron Skulls. He wasn't a hardened criminal, Hawk explained, but a military veteran who'd found Brotherhood with the club after coming home from Afghanistan with ghosts in his head. Danny had been the mechanic, the one who could fix anything, the one who made everyone laugh. "Your dad saved my life," said the bearded man who'd first spoken, his gruff voice softening. "We called him Wrench. Ambush outside of Phoenix, 3 guys with guns. Your old man stepped between me and a bullet meant for my head. Took it in the shoulder, kept fighting. But Danny had a secret," Hawk continued. He'd fallen in love with a woman named Sarah, Marcus's mother. She wasn't part of the motorcycle world. Didn't want that life for her child. When she got pregnant, Danny faced an impossible choice. "He came to me one night," Hawk said, staring into his beer. "Told me he had to leave. Had to be a real father, not a weekend warrior playing outlaw. We had a rule back then. You leave the club, you leave for good. No contact. It was stupid, proud, but that's how we were." Hawk pulled out his phone and showed Marcus a photo. It was faded, a screenshot of an old picture. But there he was, a young man with Marcus's same dark eyes and crooked smile, standing beside a motorcycle, arm around Hawk's shoulders. "Danny wanted to do right by you and your mother," Hawk continued. "But 6 months after he left, we heard he was dead. Car accident on the I-80. We tried to find Sarah to help, but she disappeared. Changed her name, moved. We figured she wanted nothing to do with us." Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. "She was protecting me. We moved 11 times in 12 years. She worked 3 jobs sometimes. She never told me anything about him except that he loved me." "She was right to run," said a woman's voice. Marcus turned to see a female biker in the doorway, her helmet under her arm. Wasn't just the club she was running from. Hawk's jaw tightened. "Reaper, we don't need to get into—" "The hell we don't," Reaper interrupted, walking inside. Kid deserves the truth. Danny's accident wasn't an accident. There was another club back then, the Devil's Brothers. They'd been trying to muscle in on our territory. When Danny left, they thought he was weak, vulnerable. They ran him off the road. The room erupted. Bikers were standing, voices raised, old anger resurfacing. But Hawk slammed his fist on the table, demanding silence. That war ended years ago, he said firmly. The Devil's Brothers scattered after their president went to prison. This boy doesn't need our old hatred. He needs answers. Marcus wiped his eyes. I don't need revenge. I just needed to know he was real. That he cared. Something shifted in the room then. These rough men, many of them fathers themselves, saw not a lost kid but Danny's legacy. One by one they began sharing stories. How Danny had taught half of them to rebuild engines. How he'd spent his weekends volunteering at a shelter for homeless vets. How he'd always said his greatest dream was to be a good father. As night fell, Hawk made Marcus an offer. We can't bring Danny back. Can't change what happened. But you've got family here if you want it. Not to join the club, he added quickly, seeing Marcus's expression. You're going to finish school, go to college, make something of yourself like your dad wanted. But we take care of our own. That includes you. The grizzled biker who Danny had saved, a man named Stone, spoke up. I've got a spare room. My wife's been after me to do something meaningful. We could use a kid around the house. Foster you proper if you're willing. Marcus looked around the room at these unexpected saviors. These men society had written off as outlaws and troublemakers. But he saw something else now, a brotherhood bound by loyalty, men who honored their debts and protected their family. Why? Marcus asked. Why help me? You don't even know me. Hawk placed a heavy hand on Marcus's shoulder. Your father gave up everything he loved to give you a better life. He walked away from brothers who would have died for him because he loved you more. That kind of man? His son deserves a chance. Over the following months, Marcus moved in with Stone and his wife, Margaret. The Iron Skulls became his unlikely extended family. They attended his school events, taught him to work on motorcycles, and told him endless stories about Danny. They'd established a fund from club dues to ensure Marcus could go to college. But more than that, they taught him what his father had known, that family isn't just blood, and redemption isn't reserved for the respectable. Stone, the scarred giant who'd first told Marcus to leave, became the father figure who taught him to be strong but gentle. Hawk checked in weekly, making sure Marcus stayed on track. Even Reaper, tough as nails, helped him with homework and taught him self-defense. On what would have been Danny's 40th birthday, the club held a memorial ride. Marcus rode behind Stone, wearing a helmet painted with his father's nickname, Wrench. They ended at an overlook outside, Reno where they'd scattered. Danny's ashes years before, a place Marcus's mother had never known about. As the sun set over the Nevada desert, Hawk handed Marcus a leather jacket. On the back it read, Property of Danny Reeves' son, forever protected. Your dad was one of us, Hawk said quietly. That makes you family. Not because you ride with us, but because we ride for you. That's what brothers do. Marcus looked out over the desert, feeling the weight of the jacket and the lightness in his heart. He'd come looking for a name, for proof that his father existed. Instead, he'd found something more valuable. A truth about humanity that transcended leather and chrome. The Iron Skulls weren't perfect. They'd made mistakes, lived rough lives, carried regrets. But when it mattered, they chose kindness over indifference. They honored a fallen brother by protecting his son, proving that nobility isn't determined by zip codes or tax brackets, but by the choice to stand up when someone needs you. As the motorcycles roared to life for the ride home, Marcus smiled. His mother had been right to send him here. She'd known that sometimes the most unexpected people become your greatest allies, and that love, real love, transcends everything society says about who deserves it. He finally knew who his father was, a man good enough that even years after his death, hard men with harder lives would drop everything to protect his son. And that was enough.